Well, it's late at night and I can't get to sleep because my mind is racing. So I'm going to share some thoughts right now about something that puzzled me for a little while. But now I think I kind of know what the answer is, at least as much as a total outsider to everything can know the answer to a question that, again, he has no inside knowledge of. But it it's uh, it's struck me as strange, and perhaps it has struck you as strange as well, how in recent years corporations have become woke. I put that term in quotes because I still hate it uh, as much as I ever have. But it wasn't always that way. There wasn't always this effort to virtue signal for trendy uh, causes, you know, and to take the side of the cultural left on issues like homosexuality, transgender restrooms, and racial minorities in general, the wonderfulness of racial minorities and the badness of whites, and specifically white men. You know, the whole routine that we've been getting from the academy for a long, long time. They've been serving it up there since, for as long as I can remember. Back when I was in college, that was on the menu. But the corporations uh, weren't speaking that language back then. You know, if they did things like social cause type things, it would be, more innocuous social causes, like, uh, raising money for kids with cancer, like the Ronald McDonald House, or other such things, things that wouldn't be controversial, things that wouldn't be upsetting, or that wouldn't be alienating to half of the nation. So why now? Why are they doing this now? Why have they started to do this over the course of the last few years? And it it seems to me that part of the answer was related was relayed to us during the fantastic presentation of the Academy Awards last year. And of course, it's late at night right now, and I'm blanking on his name. And but you know who I mean, the lead in the UK office, the atheist comedian. I'm sure you know who he is, but I can't. If I went on my phone and looked him up, then I would lose my place. So, um, but you know who I'm talking about. There was a particular part of that speech that he gave where he was just letting Hollywood have it, and it was great. Uh, uh, whether or not he was just being the court jester, uh, or whether he was and he was just sort of controlled opposition, or whether he was actually speaking from the heart and just torching the place. Either way, it was great as far as the effect overall that it had. But one thing he mentioned was he talked about, oh, there's Tim Cook. I can remember his name. Why would I remember his name? The CEO of Apple, who's also gay, I think, of course. I didn't know that at the time, but I've heard about it since. But he singled him out and said, "Oh yeah, there's Tim Cook. You know, they're so you're so woke. You're so culturally uh, sensitive to all of the trendy causes, and yet you run sweatshops in China and that work 9 and 10-year olds to death, or something like that." He didn't quite say it he didn't put it quite as harshly as I just have, but that was the first time I had thought about it in that way. These corporations, uh, they behave abominably. It's a commonplace for them. It's their business practice. They have no regard for humanity. It's all about the bottom line. So they take their manufacturing plants to places where they can get super cheap labor, and where they can, pay their workers next to nothing, and in environments where the oppressive, they make sweetheart deals with the oppressive rulers of those countries, and um, there's a quid pro quo for them being established there. A major American corporation, now multinational conglomerate, but all came out of America, a place like Apple, and other corporations, same thing, same story, and they go and basically employ slave labor, show no regard whatsoever for anything but the bottom line, and uh, they they leave the American workers in the dust, to go and leave them unemployed to go get cheap labor in Mexico or China or India or wherever. And that's the way these corporations. That's the true face of these corporations. That's how they actually behave. And so since they've been doing this, I don't know. I'm not a perhaps I'm stepping out on a precipice here, because this isn't at all my field of expertise by any stretch. But it seems that they started leaving uh, the first world generally, and started branching into cheap labor places where they could employ cheap labor, uh, at around the same time when they began to get woke. Maybe it predated it by a little, but it strikes me that this wokeness, this embrace of what's considered progressive in the liberal West, the secular, affluent, decadent West, um, they really don't. Um, it really doesn't affect their bottom line, because who cares? Maybe they alienate half the country, but still, it's not like, you know what. Are people going to stop buying Apple products because they support Black Lives Matter and transvestites in male in female bathrooms, and other crap like that? I mean, is that, yes, a lot of people hate them for that, and hate them for their smugness, their condescension, and their virtue signaling, but they're still going to buy their products, and they can even afford to say, "Hey, we don't care if you don't like us, then we don't want your business," which is what I think Starbucks even said. Um, the CEO of Starbucks said something like that the last couple of years about people with conservative beliefs. Um, it really doesn't hurt their bottom line, and it's a deflection. It enables them to look like they have a social conscience, but really, what they're not doing anything essential or important, or changing their policies in any way that would make them more humane, uh, uh, more decent. Uh, they they haven't changed at all at their essence. They're still going after the bottom line. They're exploiting uh, their workers like nobody's business. Um, uh, you know, running these sweatshops essentially uh, in places where human life is cheap and there are no laws that protect. There are no laws that protect the poor or protect the working class like there are in the West, and they deflect from that by instead emphasizing these boutique, uh, uh, SJW type of issues by showing how woke and progressive they are in the sense of uh, you know saying that gay marriage is wonderful, portraying two men kissing in a commercial or whatever, or virtue signaling on behalf of the rioters and looters of BLM. And it's not that they necessarily believe in these causes even. I mean, they just, it's an entirely cynical thing, uh, or entirely opportunistic. Maybe it's that's a more accurate way to put it, because when you're opportunistically supporting a cause, you can convince yourself that you're really behind it. But there still is a cynicism. It still derives from a cynicism, especially when your soul is being blackened, the way that Dorian Gray, you know, looks pretty and handsome and well composed and never ages, despite all of his sins. But then his picture grows more and more grotesque and awful and ugly, uh, and that's the true soul of these soulless corporations. If that's to say that they have a soul, I know to say that they're soulless and to say that they have a soul is a paradox, but you follow me still, I think. Follow what I'm saying here. So it functions as a deflection from their uh, deeply inhumane, deeply indecent practices as far as the way they treat their workers, whether it's just laying people off who have been loyal to them in order to get cheaper labor in the third world, and then abusing their workers in the third world because they can, and because it enables them to up their profit margins um, and and so forth. So that's my theory for why corporations got woke. Let me know what y'all think. Leave your comment below. Thanks for watching. My name is Andy Nowicki, and please check out my work at altrightnovelist.com.